Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 6. Module 6 is the last of 3 modules where you will work on the comparison essay. So in this module, you'll turn in the final draft of the comparison essay. If you remember, in Module 4, we did some pre-writing brainstorming for the essay. In Module 5, you wrote the rough draft and you got some feedback. Now you have feedback from the instructor, from me, from the online writing lab, and from hopefully 2 of your peers using the peer edit tool in Canvas. So now you can go look back through those 3 places to start working on revising your essay in order to create a final draft. So in Module 6, then, we're doing 2 things. You're going to do a self-edit of your own essay, and then you're going to finish the final draft and turn that in. So let me show you what this looks like. The module itself is not terribly long. We only have a couple of things in it because you have been working on this essay for essentially 3 weeks now. So I do have a couple of things in here to help you out, some editing advice from sections in the essay or in the textbooks that you may want to go look through. And then you have your self-edit. The self-edit is just answering questions about your own essay using this checklist in Rules for Writers. It's a good global revision checklist that applies to all types of essays that you might write. And so it's kind of pulls you out a little bit as opposed to being real specific. The big thing to remember with this assignment is you're answering the questions about your own rough draft. Make sure that you bullet them. A lot of students will divide it into 5 categories. A lot of students will divide it into the 5 categories. And then make sure that you give yourself some self-criticism. That is what you're being graded on, is finding areas where you know you want to improve your essay. So this may be after you have read through some of the comments from the rough draft instructor comments, the online writing lab, and then the peer comments. That's fine. You can kind of look through those and gauge where your problem areas are. That's perfectly fine. But I want you writing out things that you know you want to change. So then I put the assignment in here again just to remind you what we're working on. And then this is just the checklist to make sure that you've gone through everything. Don't forget, or the big thing to remember is that you do need to make changes. Your rough draft cannot be the same file as your final draft. It needs to have some significant changes made. And the types of changes I'm looking for are everything from small scale errors like commas and misplaced words or missing words, up to large scale errors, which would be issues with things like the thesis, whether or not the thesis matches the entire essay, the organization of it, making sure everything's point by point, all of that. So there's a lot of things that you can look at. Some of you will have a lot of work to do to turn your rough draft into a final draft, and some of you won't have as much depending on how your rough draft turned out to begin with. So you have 4 places then that you'll be looking for ideas for what to improve on. Obviously, the rough draft instructor comments are probably the most important because I really don't like making the same comments over again on a final draft that I made on a rough draft, because that makes all of the time that I spend looking through your rough draft then pointless, and you've wasted my time, and so your grade will reflect that. If you have trouble viewing the comments, let me know. But basically, when you click on the assignment that you have submitted, there should be submission details in the corner, and then view feedback. And there's a doc viewer that you expand. And I've left the little annotated comments for you. Online writing lab feedback, if you were able to send it in on time, then you can use those. And then the peer edit assignment. Hopefully, you have had 2 peers who responded. Remember, this is based on the students who actually submitted an essay, so you should get at least 1 student who has responded, and then they have a rubric that they hopefully filled out. And then, of course, your own self-edit, which gives you a chance to look through your own draft and read through your own essay. If you turn in the same copy of your essay, so that your rough draft is the same as the final draft, or maybe there's only 1 or 2 things that you actually changed and everything else is exactly the same, then I'm only giving you half credit for the assignment because that made all of this work in the last module pointless. So then you turn in your essay, and I have a link to that checklist I just showed you, and the criteria sheet to double check and make sure that your essay has everything in it that it needs to. And then we've got the grading rubric here, and this is just where you submit the essay. So this essay is the most challenging, I would say, of the class because we spend the most time on it. We're expected to be the best of your writing ability for the class. It's sort of the peak of the class, if you will. We'll have one more essay after this and then the final. And so it's kind of goes, I'm going to say goes downhill. It gets a little bit easier after this point. And so this module is sort of the ending of all of that. As usual, if you have questions, if you're having issues, if you aren't sure, you've got your rough draft and you got some feedback on it, but you maybe don't know whether or not something actually needs to be changed, you're more than welcome to email me. I'm more than happy to look at another version of a rough draft. If you had to make some significant changes, you can always email me. So hopefully you're doing well and have a great week.